Now at 4 this afternoon, gusty winds rip across central Indiana. When will they ease, and what can you expect for the weekend ahead?
Marion County judges facing a committee who will determine if they'll be on the ballot this November. We'll take you inside the interviews.
Welcome into Chicago, where Purdue has advanced to the Big Ten quarterfinals. We're going to look back on Braden Smith's historic and record-setting night and how they prepare for Nebraska coming up in 13 Sports.
Hey everybody, it's 4 o'clock and the big story today is the wind. Look at that. Strong gusts have toppled power lines. They have toppled trees across Indiana. This here is on Indy's north side earlier today near Keystone and 65th. We are dealing with sustained winds of up to 60 miles an hour in some areas.
I mean, it's knocking over semi trucks too. Look at your screens. This overturned semi tells us everything we need to know. This is on State Road 37 on Madison County. We are under a high wind warning for several more hours. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us at 4 o'clock today. I'm Felicia Lawrence.
I'm Dustin Grove. We're here with meteorologist Rob Ellis, who's been tracking these winds all day long. And this really isn't confined to one spot. It's pretty much everywhere.
It's all over the state, although the highest winds have been north and east of Indy, but everyone has been dealing with gusty winds. The good news is this is starting to ease a bit. We're starting to see the winds come down, but I want to show you some of the numbers from earlier in the day today. Let's go to the board and show you where we've clocked at 62 miles per hour was the wind gust out at the airport. Fort Wayne had 70 mile per hour wind gusts. There's an unconfirmed report, Muncie, of 86 miles per hour. However, we think that was likely going to be a sensor error. The technicians are out looking at that to see if that is a valid reading. Here's what we see. There's that 86. Again, I'd say cover that one up, but still look at the other numbers. 50s, 40s, even some 70 mile per hour wind gusts. Those are easing a bit as we get through the evening. We still have wind gusts of 47 miles per hour at the airport. Still some gusts to 50 and 52 miles per hour. By the way, a severe thunderstorm is 58 miles per hour or higher. That's the threshold for the National Weather Service to issue a severe thunderstorm warning. So some of the gusts we've seen today, 62 miles per hour in Indy, for example, that would be just like a severe thunderstorm rolling across the area. These are the types of gusts we're talking about. High wind warning still in place for much of the area from Indy to the north. Wind advisories elsewhere. Through the rest of this evening, we do expect these winds to ease a bit during the overnight, but they won't go to calm. They'll still stay breezy through the rest of your Friday evening. Clouds continuing to stay with us. Temperatures going from the 50s through the 40s. We've got an even wilder ride as we get through the weekend, Saturday into Sunday and Monday. I'll talk about that coming up.
Rob, thank you so much. And we have more weather coverage for you over on WTHR Plus. So you can check out our live Doppler radar, extended forecast, and so much more. Just download on your TV app now for free.
All right, some of the other headlines this Friday afternoon. Inside a small conference room at the Indiana State House, some big decisions are happening today as judges go before a committee.
So that committee will decide if they'll be on the ballot this November so they can serve another term. Brandon Schaff was there and joins us now to explain how this process all works.
Yeah, Felicia, Dustin, several judges here in Marion County took turns seated at the end of this long table that they had set up for them. It was a pretty intimidating atmosphere for them, right? But they handled it with a really confident way of going through this in front of this committee. The committee has 14 members who evaluate each judge, determining if they're suitable to serve another term. The committee is headed by the Indiana Supreme Court Justice Derek Moulter. The vice chair is Judge Paul Felix from the Court of Appeals of Indiana, and joining them at this table are attorneys and members selected by legislative leaders. Also members appointed by the Marion County Republican and Democratic parties. And they would each take turns asking the judge who's being reviewed about their background and giving them an opportunity to make the case on why they should be on the ballot.
Judges and lawyers even get nervous coming to court or going to this kind of process, but it's a real opportunity for us to speak from the heart about the things that motivate us, that make us want to play that important role that judges are empowered to play in the community.
And this is the Marion County Judicial Selection Committee. 16 judges were interviewed today, and once they're done, the committee will consider all candidates for retention, which will be followed by a public vote. And coming up at 5, I'll take you inside the committee interviews with these judges as they advocated for themselves so that they can keep serving their communities from inside the courtroom.
Boy, yeah. Talk about being in the hot seat.
I know it does seem like it would be a bit daunting, but it's such a big position of power in our community.
Yeah, it was stressful just for me to watch as a onlooker, right?
Yes,
so,
yes.
like I was saying, they handled it very well.
Well, I appreciate them peeling back the curtain and kind of letting us
you be
see
there.
that
Absolutely.
process.
Yeah,
right?
look forward to your story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. 6 U.S. crew members are dead after a KC-135 refueling aircraft they were on crashed. It happened yesterday in western Iraq. An Iranian proxy group initially claimed responsibility, but did not provide any proof supporting their claim. U.S. Central Command says the crash followed an unspecified incident involving another aircraft in, quote, friendly airspace. That other aircraft landed safely.
Gas prices keep going up. Today marks the 13th straight day of price hikes. According to AAA, the national average now $3.63 a gallon. At the center of this spike is the Strait of Hormuz off the coast of Iran. Iran's new supreme leader is vowing to keep it closed, which is keeping about a fifth of the world's oil supply from getting out. The U.S. Energy Secretary suggested the Navy might be able to start escorting ships through that waterway later this month, but so far that is not a guarantee.
Back here in the U.S., a pair of attacks hundreds of miles apart are shaking Americans' sense of security. First, a deadly shooting in Virginia is being interrogated as terrorism and being investigated as terrorism. Next, an explosive-filled vehicle rammed into a synagogue in Michigan and what is now being described by the FBI as a targeted attack of violence against the Jewish community. Lee Waldman has the latest on these attacks.
As snow falls on Temple Israel in West Bloomfield Township, Michigan, officials are sending a clear message.
This is not a political moment. This is not a political debate. This is targeting babies who are Jewish. That's anti-Semitism at its absolute worst.
The Department of Homeland Security identified the suspect as 41-year-old Ayman Mohammed Ghazali, who was born in Lebanon and became a U.S. citizen in 2016. Officials say he drove his vehicle filled with explosives into the synagogue with a rifle. Ghazali died at the scene. At the time, more than 100 children aged 5 and younger were attending school at the synagogue, according to Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
We must lower the rhetoric in this state and in this country, especially at this moment where we have seen such a rise in anti-Semitism and more attacks on the Jewish community.
At least 30 law enforcement officers were taken to the hospital for smoke inhalation, authorities said, and a security guard who helped stop the attack was hit by the suspect's vehicle and is expected to be okay. Meanwhile, in Virginia, authorities say 2 Old Dominion University students were hurt and 1 person was killed when a former Virginia National Guardsman and convicted ISIS supporter began shooting on campus.
The brave ROTC members in that room subdued him. And if not for them, I'm not sure, what else he may have done.
The gunman, who was identified by the FBI as 36-year-old Mohammed Baylor Jallo, was killed at the scene. I'm Lee Waldman reporting.
We are still waiting to learn more details about the death of a man that Westfield police call suspicious. An autopsy was done this morning. Our 13 News reporter Emily Longnecker is here with the latest.
Yeah, investigators were back out here today in the 3900 block of Westfield Road, going through the yard of the house you see behind me. And that house is where police say they found the body of a man last night around 7 o'clock. They say that man had trauma to his body. Now, at this point, that is all the information they have given us. They say that the man's death is suspicious. That's what they are calling it, but they say they are waiting to make sure that all family members have been notified, and they're also waiting on autopsy results. That autopsy was done this morning. Now, we talked to neighbors in the area. They didn't want to go on camera, but they say a man in his 40s lives in this house with his son. They say they do not see him much, and they didn't hear anything last night, they say, until they saw and heard the police sirens and saw all the lights. They tell us that police were here most of the night, going through the yard like you see them doing right now here behind me in the daylight. And again, those neighbors didn't really want to go on camera. They don't know what happened. They say they didn't hear anything, they didn't see anything, so they are waiting on information as well. At this point, again, Westfield police, all that they will say of this situation is that the death of this man is suspicious, and they tell us when they have more information, they will give it to us. In Westfield, Emily Longnecker, 13 News.
Indianapolis public schools are facing money challenges. District leaders say they are tasked with slashing $7 million from next year's budget. IPS Superintendent Dr. Johnson shared that warning in a video message to families Thursday night. Johnson said the district will lose $7 million in funding for next school year. IPS said policy changes at the state and a continued decline in enrollment within the district are to blame. In the last 10 years, IPS lost more than 10,000 students, dropping to just under 20,000 enrolled this school year. IPS uses something known as student-based allocation when deciding where to allocate money. The district says they will look at seeking a new referendum this fall as budget talks continue.